Well, hey there. Pardon me. Good morning, everyone. For those of you who don't know, my name is Jenny-satori, or Jenny Davis, or Jenny-satori Davis. Call me anything but, of course, late for dinner. It's been quite a while since we last spoke, and I just thought that I would go ahead and talk about what's on my mind this month. The last time we spoke, we left off on the topic of creation, of separation, and rather interesting, that was back in September, and it seems that the country, or even the world, is actually even more separated than they were before. So I just thought I'd mention that as a little reminder that when we are creating labels, including today's topic, toxic people, that's a label, we are creating more separation amongst ourselves. And the truth is, we're all people. We're all human beings. And let that come first before any other labels come about. You know, this one's this one's that. It's all labels. And the more that we label people, especially in a derogatory way, the more that we are creating that separation, just to be a little more clear on that. And I just wanted to say that it seems that now more than ever, it's super important to not place those labels and section off people into, okay, for example, which I'm really not going to talk too much about, but, you know, the right side and the left side and so on. That's a whole lot of separation. And when that happens, you know, the old saying, divide and conquer, then there you go. So anyway, I am here on my husband's computer today. I thought I'd switch things up. I have my notebook sitting there with no battery, and I figure rather than worry about it and, you know, go through the trouble of plugging it and all this stuff, here I am on this computer, which I suppose has an equally good camera. Maybe a little bit bright though, right? Whoa. So anyway, the only problem is with computers, you need a headset. At least I do with this one. And it's a little bit annoying. Kind of makes me want to sit forward a bit. Anyway, back to the topic at hand. Today we're discussing toxic people with a question mark. The reason I came up with it is because I found myself having to separate myself from certain people and or situations. And with that, I did have a label. I did mutter the words toxic person. And I wanted to contemplate that, and I said, why not contemplate it in real time with other people? And actually, speaking of other people, you'll notice I did not put an event out there for this show, and the reason I didn't was because I tend to get a little bit off track when when others are commenting, and I actually really appreciate when they do. The problem is it's all me, and I can't simply just look away because I like to get involved so much that I decided today, let's try this. I'm sort of new to the whole webcam and the talking on my own type thing, so I'm, every time I do this, I'll probably try different things out just to see how I feel. Oh my God, holy uncomfortable headset. To see how I feel and to see what works best for me. And I encourage people to do the same. No matter what platform you use, you want to be as comfortable as you can. So anyway, getting back to my little contemplation here about labels and, of course, today's topic, toxic people or persons. Is it a toxic person, or is it my perception? Yeah? And that's always something that I feel we should always be looking at. When we go to that place, which is not necessarily a bad place, but it is a place that you can go in your mind and say to yourself, this person is this or that place. Generally, we're speaking from our own perception. Yeah. So as I'm thinking out loud and I'm feeling out loud, see, that's really the main thing in these sorts of things. If you go in the heart here, go from your heart rather than your head. There goes my headset. When you go from your heart rather than your head, I think it's easier to sort of clarify really where you're coming from. When we are engrossed in emotions because we ourselves have been labeled in a way that we feel is not flattering or disrespectful, I think that our first reaction is to label back. And, I have situations, like I said, I recently, I would say over the last few months, I have separated myself from anything that I felt was not healthy for me. I think it's a matter of just sometimes outgrowing or just not sharing the same goals and beliefs that, I felt that it was best to separate. And I think that when you do that, it creates some issues at times, and with this particular situation, I feel that the person has very much lashed out when they hadn't gotten their way, okay? And that's when I got to the place of, well, this is a toxic person. And actually when they did that sort of thing, it sort of validated what I had thought to begin with. I think for the most part you want to listen to your heart, to your own intuition, and if you think or feel that somebody is not after your own best interest, then you have every right to remove yourself from that situation and that person. How they react is of no consequence to you. However, more times than not, particularly if they're this, let's just say, quote unquote, toxic person, they may lash out on you, at you, And I have had this happen now. I've noticed that if they don't get what they wanted, they're starting to do the pout thing, and they're not getting what they want. And it didn't turn out the way they thought it would. Like perhaps they thought that they would persuade me to buy them the Brooklyn Bridge or whatever, and I just didn't do it. And suddenly, there's this, you can, sometimes it's rather subtle, but, being an intuitive, by the way, first and foremost, and also just being a human being, you can catch that vibe. So is it toxic or is it just human nature? I think perhaps it could be both, if that makes any sense. But who am I to actually judge that action? I think that's the most important thing. That's spiritually. That's on a spiritual level. This person obviously I believe when people lash out and when they do things out of spite, it's generally because they're hurt or disappointed. And so obviously I've hurt that person by leaving their immediate presence, and as a result, what they've done is just kind of turn around and, do whatever they can to kind of make little pokes and hits in the background. And, to be aware of it is one thing, but to absorb it is quite another. And I have found that that's been one of my little things that I need to work on, is to absolutely separate myself from that, see it for what it is, and just observe it rather than absorb it. And I've said this many times before, but sometimes you can give the best advice to other people, but when it comes to yourself, you may not be able to be that objective. And so I have, and I plan on listening to myself a heck of a lot more. But anyway, of course, I always do things impromptu, so I'm just talking and saying how I feel here. And the main message is whether or not they're toxic is irrelevant. It's actually, I believe, in these situations, the brain does what it feels it has to sort of, what is the word I'm looking for? To sort of compartmentalize, if you will, for lack of a better word, certain things, or to make sense of certain things, So the brain is always looking for patterns and labels anyway. So when someone does something like, flicks you or pinches you out of nowhere or something like that, right away your brain goes, bad person, And I just want to say that doesn't necessarily mean they are bad people. But however, their reaction perhaps was bad. There's a difference, and I think we've all done this. We've all sort of had a knee-jerk reaction to certain things, and they were incorrect. In hindsight, we could have handled it better. Yeah. Let me just take a sip of my coffee. It is 8 a.m. here on a Sunday morning, so just drink the coffee, yeah? Anyway, it's so funny because I got some dental work done, and I'm still quite not comfortable with the dental work, so I'm like, it's funny when you're drinking something or speaking or whatever. So anyway, not that matters. I think the whole point is try to step back before you start to label, before you start to get angry yourself, because first of all, there are people out there who may be more along the lines of toxic, who actually get a rise out of your rise. When you make a response, be it, on social media or, to them directly or off to the side, they actually get a kick out of that because they feel like they have control. They feel like they've done something to affect your life, and it feels kind of powerful. And it's sometimes even comical to them to watch people run around like chickens without a head, like, oh my God, they said this about me. Oh my God, and so think about that too. Do you want to allow another person to control your situation, your life, I mean? And there's an old saying, he or she who angers you controls you, right? So think about that. I had a little sneeze there, pardon me. But really, think about that. He or she who angers you controls you. I think I'll just hold my headset up so I don't have to keep leaning forward. Anyway, let's just move along to some ideas of toxic people. I think that if we're going to label it, and if we're going to go, let's go logical for a moment, and we'll go back to the other part of it if you like, but might be helpful for you. The number one thing you want to look out for is when someone is just blatantly selfish. You know, they're so busy thinking of themselves that, you know, it's just stuck on everything about them and what their ideas are. It's always, and it could be pushy even. It could be, you know, do this for me. Can you do, you know, it's a, can you do this for me? Thank you. They don't even really get an answer from you because they assume that you're going to do it. If you start alluding to the no, then guess what? The name calling, the this, the that. Oh, what kind of friend are you? I mean, there are people out there like this, okay? And again, this is our label, but it's just for lack of a better way to put it. You know, it could be just a different energy or whatever. All right. Also, the right fighting. There are those that, no matter what, it doesn't matter what your perspective is, what your point of view is. They will twist and turn this stuff around to you know, appease them, to appear correct at every angle. What do you do with that? I'll tell you what I do. I have been very much approached by people like this, very, very much in my job, particularly, I'd say, but also in the outside world, you know, switching hands, ouch. Oh, God, now what was I going to say? Oh, the right fighters, you know, they will continuously just push their opinion and have to be right. Guess what I can do? Guess what I do? I say, okay, yep, okay. Oh, I see, gotcha. Oh, yeah. You know why? For me personally, I don't feel like I need to validate myself to another person in that way. I don't feel like I have to, you know, also rise up and say, oh, no. You know, there's a saying, pick your hill to die on. Life is too short to be worried about, you know, when Lincoln freed the slaves, you know. You can argue till the cows come home. There's a truth out there, perhaps, maybe, you know. It's written somewhere, and you don't have to argue. You know, they can go later on and look it up and realize that they were incorrect, and I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to look it up myself and go, hey, guess what? I confirmed that I was correct, you know, or something like that. It's just a matter of why does a person need to do this? And when you spot that, when you spot the reasons behind why people do things, because there's always a reason, you know, there's always a reason that people do things and people are the way they are. You know, it just doesn't happen by accident. If you have a hard time understanding them, it's just simply because of that. It's because you don't relate to them, you don't understand, and that's okay too. But that's also a situation where you can choose to either try to learn to understand them or walk away if you're not on the same page. It doesn't make you wrong. doesn't make that other person wrong, but sometimes it just is. Okay, so getting back to this kind of the little hints about toxic people, generally you're going to find that these people love drama. They might even claim straight up, you know what, I don't like drama, I hate it, I don't do this, I don't gossip. But they are the ones who are back there somewhere watching, doing planting little seeds. Oh, guess what? And then perhaps sitting back and watching the whole drama, or enjoying when people come to them and tell them about their drama and, oh, really? You know, it's whatever. The next one is that obviously they lie. You know, certain kinds of people are completely happy to twist, obscure, reinvent the truth, maybe to hide or pursue their own personality flaws. It's just something to look out for as well. You know, I've seen people lash out in such a way because they're not getting what they're after with a person, that they will just twist things around and tell lies, or even tell that person stuff that is completely away from who they really are. It's a little tactic to make them go, oh my God, they really think that about me? It's another form of, guess what, control. So think about that too. If you are trying to get away from someone, and this is important, ladies, with the abusive men sometimes or whatever, this is one of the tactics, yeah? The manipulation, the emotional manipulation, you know? These kind of people, they want you to feel bad about yourself. They want you to count on them. They want you to feel that they're the only people on this earth who know best about you and for you. Just saying. So with that being said, also if they're too eager, you know, they just all of a sudden out of nowhere, somebody, let's say you run a business and somebody comes up to you and just volunteers to help. Now, in the spiritual community, you might find that there are great people like that. Maybe that's another story. But aside from that, maybe, you know, in reality, think about that. Think about it. Be careful who you bring close in terms of business as well as personal. You know, I think we could go on and on about, you know, toxic people, or quote unquote toxic people. The main point is that go to your heart anyway. Always my go-to. Now, sometimes it could be, I'm telling you, this headset is going to, I don't think I'm going to do this one again, I'll tell you that. Anyway, now I just completely lost my train of thought again. I should probably do these later when, after I've woken up a bit. Yeah? No. Thing is, always go to your heart and think about why people are the way they are, and they can allow them to be that way, allow them to be who they are, but they don't have to be around you if you don't feel good about it. Okay. My favorite that I've said many times to people is, you can love people, but love them from a distance. I have had to do that in family situations. I've had to do that in other situations. You don't have to hold bitterness, right, or harbor any resentment or hate, but you do not have to be around every person that you just don't jive with. And that doesn't make you a bad person. That person, when you leave the relationship or whatever, they may interpret it as other things. They want to rationalize and justify on their end. Oh, that person, I don't know what happened, and that person just did this, or that person just let me down, or whatever. The thing is, there's reasons on everybody's end, and if we can all be objective about that, I think it will be a little bit happier around the office, around the world even. You know, if we just stepped back and stopped taking things so personally. Boom, I said it. And that's a tough one, is it not? Stop taking everything so personal. That is one of the 4 agreements in Buddhism. And I think that's a doozy. I think that we can, although the other ones are great, I think that one should always be in bold for me. Never mind you guys, but just saying, so you all know. When we take things personally, we almost always do the wrong thing. And that's because we're emotionally driven and our ego is hit, our ego is bruised, and we will react or respond in ways that are not always in line with who we really are, you know. And that's something to look at too when people come to you and they appear angry. Anger is just a cover-up from being hurt most of the time. So step back and go to yourself even, or if you can, to that person. What are you really feeling? What is really the problem? You know, it starts with us. You know, if we're preaching to everybody to behave a certain way, but then we go ahead when we're faced with a situation, we just act from our emotion or from ego, we are not helping just by spitting out words. It's good to preach at certain times, but I always believe you want to lead by example. And, you know, heck, I'm not perfect. I never will be, but none of us are. And when you're given the opportunity, think of that always. I think that's about it, guys. I actually went more than I thought I would, and it's been very, very interesting. This entire month has been amazing for me. Oh my gosh, I've had so many changes. I mean, in October I quit smoking. I feel great. I'm proud of myself. And that's a good thing. You know, it's not cocky or ego. You need to be proud of yourself when you have an achievement such as that. And I am, you know. I've found part of my birth family. Oh my God, very, very exciting. And not to idealize people, like I found my birth father, and, you know, reality is reality. It's not a TV show. You know, I've heard people say, oh, I've seen shows like that, you know, and it's like there's a perception of happily ever after or something like that. And this headset, oh my God, I'll just go like this, like We Are the World video. We are the world. Anyway, there's this perception of a happily ever after, but the thing is, you know, people pass away, and sometimes people weren't that great on this plane, or maybe they didn't treat their children right, or whatever it is, and still look at things as gifts. I do. I have, and I am so blessed and happy about so much that all this other noise going on around in the background and some of the not so pleasant stuff, seemingly, because it's all about perception, is really nothing in comparison to the beauty that we have called life here, you know, and you never know when that's going to go. It's not a threat or something to place fear in people. It's fact, you know. So the best thing to do is go past the negative, drive past the negative on the left, make a right, and keep driving, my friends. So that's it for this month, and I'll see you soon. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Hanukkah, all that great stuff, and I will speak to you again when the moment arrives. Take care, everybody. Bye.